listeners and race fans, and welcome to another episode of the Round Bar Supercars Podcast, the podcast by the punters on the hill for the punters on the hill. I'm Bails and I've got Matty and Marshy on the line. But before we get to them, a big shout out to our supporters here at the Round Bar channel, Biti Motors Culcairn, Cobrapparel and Membrey's Auto Electrical in Kundruk. A big thank you to them. Links are in the show notes. You're listening in on Podbean, Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Again, links are in the show notes, and don't forget our little YouTube exploration there as well. That gets up a couple of days after we record this one. And find us by searching the Round Bar channel on Facebook. Gentlemen, g'day Matty.
G'day Bales, Marshy.
G'day Marshy.
G'day Bales, g'day Matthew.
Good to have you guys on the line. A few news cycle headlines coming from the Century Batteries Ipswich Super 440 over the weekend, or at least since we last recorded. A smaller one, but one that sort of tickles the fancy of a long-term Round Bar channel member, myself. The Team Kiwi are going to have a run, or they're looking to have a run in Super 2, making a comeback there at Bathurst. So I guess they were the little team that could, over the years. They've had a few different guises along the way, not without their controversy at times as well, but it's good to see another car at least looking towards getting on the grid. But I think that the big one over the weekend, in addition to Red Bull extending their sponsorship with Triple Eight, was that David Cauchi returning to the Triple Eight fold after having a bit of time off away from Grove/Penrite. There was talk he was working for Supercars for a little while, but no, very much back in the fold at Triple Eight. And a couple of engine dramas for both Allen and Mostert across the weekend. I guess anything outside of the racing proper that you'd like to have a yarn about, gents?
I think the Cauchi one's pretty interesting, like to go from Triple Eight to go to Grove and then go back to Triple Eight. That's a pretty interesting thing. Obviously, a little bit of brown paper bags or some money had changed some hands, if that makes sense, to get him over there. Because, geez, it's an interesting sort of thing to have to leave one employer and then go to another one and go back to your old employer, isn't it?
I guess so, but the grass isn't always greener, I suppose. So
True.
maybe he had a bit of a look because it was probably a good deal to get out of there, and you decided that it's probably even better of a deal to go back. So I suspect Red Bull will be over the moon because that's just unreal for them. So it's a bit of a coup. So good on him.
Because he's taken Edwards' spot, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Edwards is moving up into a more senior engineering role. He's not leaving the team. He's staying there.
No, he's just staying there. I was hesitant on Andrew Edwards. I got a fella here back home. His name's Andrew Edwards, and I'm like, hang on, is that right? But no, yeah.
I think something for Cauchi there too. I do recall him talking at the time he did leave Grove that he felt there was a bit of a ceiling there, and that he had sort of nowhere to transition to, and that opportunity at Grove to kind of step into a more senior role that he did down there and kind of help build that team was attractive at the time. But I can't help but suspect that living in Melbourne versus living on the Gold Coast or in Brisbane, probably, I mean, in addition to working for Triple Eight, I probably know where I'd rather be going, especially if they're throwing some cash around the place. Time, gentlemen, before we get into the Super 440 review for our Biti Motors Culcairn big moments over the weekend. Now, I've gone to the trouble of listing a few because I think I might get one or two maybe pinched from me. So we'll see how we go.
Well, how about
Marshy?
You open the bowling?
No, you go. Come on,
Starkey.
No,
come on. You can take six. Come on, let's go.
You go, Marshy. Off you go.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm probably gonna go a little bit left field here. I'm gonna go probably a big moment was Matty Payne's lap when in the qualifying when it just came out of absolutely nowhere and on used tyres and just absolutely shocked the bejeepers out of the rest of the field. I thought that was a pretty big moment. Obviously, there's bigger moments as well, but I thought in the context of the weekend and laying down that lap right at the last minute on used tyres, no one gave him an absolute chance, but I thought that was a big moment and just went, geez, he was fast. And you could see in the Penrite garage, they were in disbelief as well with him actually getting getting that pole position. So, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool and a big moment that's what I took out.
Beautiful, Marshy. Matty?
I have two, but I don't know. I feel bad that I might take one of yours, Bails, but I'll run with it. Okay, so I thought massive moment. I think it was race 3 on the weekend where Feeney was coming into the pits. Kostecki was like hot on his tail and munching up time. Feeney was at them to say, "How much time are you going to take me out for?" And Kostecki was coming up fast behind him, and he just pulled out in front of him. And I thought that was just a massive moment in the kind of, because that could have made or kind of broken the race for both of them. So I thought that was a really cool situation to be watching, and the commentary team did a really good job by picking up on all the bits and pieces through that, because it all moved pretty quickly. So I thought that was a pretty cool and big moment. And the other one was probably not as crazy big, but I feel like Ryland Gray really started to find his spot, and what did he get? I think he got a 7th for the weekend, was it, or something like that? He did pretty well, and just although they didn't show a heap of the passing from the back of the field or even the mid of the field for him now, he was rounding people up. So he was going hard at it, and I thought that was awesome to see, because even we'd been a little bit sceptical of him in the last couple of weeks. So I thought that was massive for Ryland Gray as well.
Well, he qualified in those top 10s. I think two out of the 3 qualified in the top 10. And he had pace in the practice runs as well. I think when you sort of looked at it, there was a fair bit on the commentary team where they were saying he was like Brodie would lead him out and follow him. Not follow him, so he would follow Brodie Kostecki, obviously, and knew where to go and how to do it. So, yeah, I thought he was awesome. You could see the disappointment in him when he ran into the sand trap, though, couldn't you? He was shattered, the poor kid. Because he was having a good race then, too. But that's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Mitchell?
Nice,
I don't reckon we've stolen any of them.
You didn't. It's unreal.
Let's go.
So I went.
We're being nice.
I went the obvious one. So I guess they're kind of interrelated. And I won't worry about the third one I had up the sleeve because it'll come up anyway. But I just thought that Triple Eight put down a fair marker across the weekend. Considering the week that they'd had, we talked in the pre-pod about the pressure on Brown to perform, and perform he did. But obviously had the tools to make that happen. It is their test track, so that added another layer, but also at the same time, they should do well there. But I think, I suppose you don't read too much form into it, but their swagger and their confidence was right up there across the weekend.
Yeah.
And everyone else should probably be moderately worried in terms of that space, given that they're in the that headspace. And now within the space of 3 races, that confidence turn around. They've won the Sprint Cup and now fly on into what will be, a really intriguing enduro campaign moving forward from there. A big thank you to the crew at Biti Motors Culcairn for supporting that little opening segment, the Biti Motors big moments from the weekend at Ipswich. Time to roll on into the Century Batteries Ipswich Super 440 recap. Our final sprint round for the season. Enduros are just around the corner, which gets us very excited here at the Round Bar channel. Well, potentially just myself, but we all love a little bit of endurance action. Just some practice notes. Yeah, we already sort of talked over. They're Ryland Gray doing pretty well, and there's some other people throwing some tyres at it, and it's always difficult to tell, but it's nice to see a few people do that, throw some greens in, sort of get some confidence up early in the weekend. It was epic to see, obviously, Aaron Seaton back in the number 30 retro livery overall. And look, probably some of the racing was Ipswich or Queensland Raceway at its absolute best, and then some of it probably wasn't to the level, but not every race is a great one. I guess across the 3 races, I guess as a summary from myself. Matty, did you have something on that? No, I thought you were about to say something.
I was just licking my lips.
He was getting ready.
No,
ready.
I did think the way you put it was perfect, right? There were there were nice patches of good hard racing, and we saw that come through. And I thought the coverage, again, we've been critical of them for a little while, but I thought they did pretty well getting to the battle packs and showing where people were having a good crack at it. But then for pretty decent stretches of fairly short races, it felt like there was almost nothing going on. So I guess that's the nature of the beast. But yeah, those stretches got me a little bit worried for the enduros, because I was like, oh geez, are we just going to have like spaced out cars with no safety cars kind of bunching them up? But look, overall, it probably wasn't the most exciting weekend, but it was still good to watch. So for race one, I just worked out it was Ryland Gray got 7th in race one. I think that was his best finish for the weekend, and I thought that was fantastic. Like, good on him.
So in race 26, our opening encounter on Saturday, we had Kostecki from Payne and Brown as our top three. And at that point, Brown probably would have taken the podium and ran back to Toowoomba and called it off, but it was only to get better for him. Pole was Matty Payne. Murray and Gray both qualified pretty well for that race, finding themselves in the 10. We had wall-to-wall Fords, though, really, in the end, except for Chaz sitting out in 4th place. Mostert and Brown had a bit of contact. Those opening laps of pretty much all the races were must-watch. Multiple rows of 2 wide for whole portions of laps for those sort of first handful of laps were great to watch. We had some early stops there. Chaz just looking to get out of the battle with Brown and sort of Allen looming up, but left him a long way to go with those tyres towards the end of the race. Kostecki went for 3 versus Payne's 4, and Mostert and Allen made it in front of him from there, undercut. Bailey Hall had an oopsies, and with Chaz sort of probably scaring him in the mirror, and he just bowled a wide, heading off the track a little bit, made it through. Payne and Mostert on the last corner, ultimately Payne sort of pushed him wide a little bit in there, and JC and Tender both commented about how you just don't be on the outside in that particular spot, and in the end there was a 5-second penalty applied.
Allen.
Yeah, sorry, Allen.
Yeah.
My apologies. Some radio dramas again for car 7 on the back of just a bit of tough time with that. So they had the old pit board out. Wildcards filling the last 3 spots in that first race. Probably not overly surprising, but just getting their weekend underway. We had 8 Fords and 2 Toyotas in our top 10. Look, a bit like Matty saying, entertaining in patches. Marshy, thoughts on race 26?
I thought it was entertaining in patches. I don't know. It was just people building up to the weekend, I think, getting ready, just sort of trying to get through the first one. See, because obviously with those sprint races, you're back-to-back pretty quick. You stuff up and you're out for 2 races rather than 1, basically, for that turnaround. I thought the elation in Will Brown when he got 4th in qualifying, he was stoked with it. He was like, yes, you've got me a car. And then obviously to put it on to get 3rd against that, I think that was really cool. But yeah, I don't think it was the most interesting race of the weekend, race 1.
No, probably not. There was a bit going on sort of in that back end of the 10. Golding, Randall, Andre, they were all sort of mixing it in, and that probably ended up being the status quo for the weekend for those guys. So that was kind of interesting to watch in all the races when there was sort of nothing else doing a little bit. Matty, anything else for you out of race 26? You've probably covered that already.
Race 26, yeah.
Beautiful. Moving on into the second race on Saturday afternoon, race 27, we had Brown getting his win, and didn't he love that? And I good on him, I reckon, in all honesty, after the season he's had. Kostecki wrapping up another podium in 2nd, and Feeney in 3rd for a double 888 podium. Payne started on pole. Mostert and Brown effectively replicated their start from the earlier race and sort of just turned it on for everyone. Gray shot it off into the grass on turn 3. He'd had an engine change along the way as well, so being off the road wouldn't have done too much for him. Kostecki and Payne sort of took the race lead heading after a great run off the final corner, and they sort of went side by side and carrying on a bit. and it really just let Brown catch up to both of them. Davey in one of the Premier's cars had an excursion off the road, but were able to keep it going. Hall and Walls smoked them up trying to pass one another in the pair of wildcards and sort of made a bit of a mess of it themselves. Kostecki overcooked a pass on Matty Payne, went sort of in behind Brown. He ended up losing that spot. Very un-Brody-like type of situation with that, and around, I guess, just that kind of pressure type mistake. Gray had himself that mishap and found himself beached, bro, as we were talking about earlier on. But we got the safety car, which was cool.
Yes, we did.
He was a long way off the road at that point and completely overcooked the braking marker on that. And really, love a safety car with about 10 laps to go, just to close everything back up for, as sort of Matty alluded to earlier. Golding had a spin, which on not long after the restart, which really probably has some championships implications. He was 7th at the time and sort of went tumbling down the order. Battles just sort of going on every which way, and there were lots of commentary post this race sort of on the socials about just how good it was, and probably of the three it was the better race. Brown on Payne, that move was pretty epic, going side by side and Brown making the pass in the end. Kostecki jumped in as well. Some really good supercars racing with that. Possibly there was a drama with Payne's car. There was a bit of smoke happening or coming from sort of in a guard or somewhere. Do you know anything about that, Marshy?
No, they just sort of said there could have been a bit of debris that got up in there and just rubbed on the wheel, and it was just causing smoke. But it sort of seemed to clear itself pretty quickly. It
sort of slowed him down, but not enough to pull him in off the track.
Yeah.
Around lap 32, we got ourselves a safety car through a little drama for Ben Gomersall. Allen and Brown sort of cranked it right up before the control line, like they were going for it. Brown took the lead. Kostecki and Brown side by side before running wide on the exit of 3, and that sort of drew Feeney into the mix. And while there was a bit of that going on, Brown sort of took off. Mostert, Payne and Waters also fighting out for spots. Reynolds charging through, and JC just randomly, as sort of chaos was happening in the background of the commentary box, he goes, "How good are safety cars?" And then just left it at that and let them keep going. I had to have a chuckle because I was like, he's just like us up on the hill. And in the end, with maybe a handful of laps to go, things settled down, and Brown really claimed a reasonably easy win in the end. And you know what? He was pretty excited. Matty, race 27 on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I didn't have much more on top of that. I thought Kai Allen nailed it. Like he's really starting to get some consistency, so that's good. He got a 4th in that race, so that was pretty positive. But the real story was Will Brown, right? Redemption. He comes back, and even after the first race, everyone was like, "Oh, even with the bloody restrictor right now, like he can't really get it done." And then boom, he gets it done. So I think that was nice. And it was nice to watch all the comments just disappear online because everyone was like riding him hot, and then he just did it. So that was nice to see. But other than that, I thought I agree, probably the best race of the weekend.
Marshy, race 27.
Yeah, I think you've covered most of it off. I think I have to take my tinfoil hat off because we actually got to see the restrictor that I thought was never there, which was I thought it was awesome that he got to keep it. He asked Supercars for it. I think they said there's a bit of bargaining happening in regards. He would have had it. He was having a chit chat with Jess Yates in an interview and said, "I'll do that if you get me the restrictor and I get to keep it." So obviously, to have that, and then he's done a shoey and then done a restrictor. So I don't think we'll ever see that again.
Is that the new shoey?
I don't know. We all going to go get restrictors. You can see he was trying to figure out how he's going to work it. He's sitting there on his hand. No, but I think absolutely great. You can see, I don't know, we ask for characters in our sport and we ask for people to show real emotion, and you could absolutely see that in regards to Will Brown. You saw that when he got the 3rd, but jeepers creepers, when he got that race win, he just was ecstatic. He was crazy. He was up and about. And I think that's what we want. We want those characters. You want to see that raw emotion of, I'm peeved off, I'm upset, I'm cranky because I'm not getting results. But then when it turns that table and you you come through it, you actually are just like, yep, this is great. And as Matty said, you saw all the comments just go, psh, and everyone, I think, was really happy for him. No matter if you went for Red Bull or you went for Tickford or you went for whoever, I think you're ecstatic for him. So, it was really good to see.
And just such a good storyline, like a sports story, and I think that was mentioned multiple other places across the weekend as well. And just that really likable character. That gave us 7 Fords, 2 Chevs, and 1 Toyota, making our top 10 before we had a bit of a sleep and rolled on into race 28 on Saturday, the longer of the 3 races across the weekend. Brock Feeney, our winner. Brodie Kostecki in second, and Will Brown rounding out the podium in third for what was a very good weekend for Triple Eight. Brown had the pole, so again, sort of just stepping up a little bit further with that, and really ticked all the boxes for the weekend. Again, willing opening laps, as we've sort of covered off up and down the field, including a couple of wheels off the grass or off the road on the grass down the front straight again. Thought we're going to get sort of Bates and Hill 2.0 there at one stage. Walls and Wood got themselves under investigation for a lap 6 drama, with ultimately Walls getting a 5-second penalty. Our first pit stops happened around lap 11, and that was early doors. Gray rubbing in the back of Reynolds, got the pass happening. JLB sort of had some steering issues of some kind, and we heard about it for a while, and then sort of it disappeared, or he just put up with it. So, so people can drive around these things at times. Really, the first full cycle of stops happening around lap 16 to 22. Despite being second on the road, it was interesting to see that Brown pitted first. Typically, Feeney would have the choice, and I suppose he chose not to, or the engineers chose not to, but I thought that was a little bit interesting. But he covered off before sort of Feeney and Allen, came back in front. More radio drama for Golding. Feeney and Payne pitted a lap apart, lap 22 and 23. Wood was his entertaining best on the radio, giving a bit of serve back to the crew in the pits. DJR had a good stop for Brodie, which was great. And then when he come back onto the track, he had drama getting around sort of, I guess, back marker type cars, and he sort of gave them a fair character reference over the radio as well. Come about nearly half race distance, we had Mostert into the garage. Drama on a downshift, and it didn't sound great. In the end, it came out today in an article on supercars.com that it threw a lower bearing, which wasn't great for the number 1 Optus Toyota. The live ladder got a run. I hadn't noticed it at any other time of the weekend, but I saw it the first time on lap 29 of that race. So I thought maybe that was a little bit late to the party, but it was semi-regular sort of from there on, which was good. Wood and Cameron had a drama, got looked into by race control. By the time we got halfway through, we had 7 Mustangs at the front, and we had Feeney, Brown and Kostecki were our top 3, and ultimately became our podium in a different order later on in the race. Lap 33, Payne in the pits, and there's his engine drama, and also put an arrow through his Sprint Cup campaign. Ojeda overcooked it, trying to make a pass. Groves did try for a little while to sort of get that fixed and back out for some points, but it became pretty evident pretty early doors that wasn't going to happen. And there was some, some Ford performance and supercars people hovered in and around that garage and in under the bonnet trying to work things out. I just took a little note at that point, wondering, is this the weekend Triple Eight, really pushed towards the title? And we sort of covered that off at the top of the pod. Live ladder again a little bit later on. There was a dodgy pit stop for Waters, sort of Tickford letting down a little bit with that. Kostecki really closed the gap big time on Feeney with around 20 to go, a bit less. It was 5 seconds, and by the time it was almost 10 to go, he was down to 5, or 0.5, I should say, and it never really eventuated to much after that. There was an interesting head-to-head fuel graphic that went up. I don't know if either of you blokes saw that.
Laps remaining. Yeah.
I appreciated that. I thought that was good. Hopefully that gets a run across the Enduro campaign as well. As I said, Brodie dropped back a little bit. 5-second penalty for Walls for a driving infringement with Hill. ADP, Reynolds, Murray were good for the Chevs, but that was sort of as good as it got for them across the weekend, with the two Team 18s finishing in the top 10. Fraser and Hill moved up 8 spots within the race, so that's a good effort. Obviously, there's a couple of retirements in there, but outside of that, they're making passes through strategy and out on the track. And for Cooper Murray and Declan Fraser, in the end, they ran out of fuel, or were running out of fuel very short on the last lap. 8 Fords, 2 Chevs, no Toyotas in our 10 for race 28. Marshy, what was your takeaways from the race?
That's 2 weekends that the Toyotas have had an engine problem, isn't it?
Yep, and that's on engine...
that's one garage, though. It's not BJR, so...
It's true.
Yeah, so obviously something's happening or not happening. I know with that bearing, I think it came out today as well that all those Supras across the field went and changed that for their test day today or tomorrow. Okay. So they all changed that one element. But yeah, I'll tell you what was interesting though. That start of that last race where you had Feeney and Brown side by side the whole way, and I'm just going, wow, hang on. One of you, it can end in tears very, very quickly. But good on him. Like I think that's fantastic. That's what we want to see. We want to see rough, like racing hard, not giving in. I think there was a time when they said, "Oh, geez, they were battling," and Brown just then realised, "Oh, bugger, hang on, that's my teammate in the rear mirror. I better not do what I was about to do and just let him slot in there." So I think it was really good, and it was hard racing. You could tell either Brown just wanted to get another one up, and Feeney was racing hard because he knew wherever I finish, I have to finish either in front of Payne, or Payne has to finish 17th. And obviously with that engine drama, Payne didn't finish the race, so Brock could have finished basically anywhere. So swooped in and got the win. So, and takes the Sprint Cup trophy with him. The cup, anyway, it's not a cup. I just don't get it. So anyway, probably deserving for Brock Feeney because he doesn't drink, so that's all right. He doesn't have to drink out of it. He can just put it on the mantle.
Spare steering wheel.
Yep.
Matty?
Golden steering wheel.
Yeah.
I was gutted for Matty Payne. It's probably we've all mentioned it, and I just felt like this was the time where he was going to hold it all together just long enough to get something done, and it was going to all work. And then it just didn't. I was like, bugger it. I thought he was there. So yeah, you could see he was pretty disappointed, and it's been a couple of times where he's had just average luck car wise, and things just haven't worked out for him. So I guess the big takeaway for him is that he's right up there. He's there or thereabouts, and he's going to factor massively in the rest of the season. So yeah, I guess tough luck story, but he's going to be there. Other than that, I don't think from memory I had much more. Golding finished pretty well, didn't he? I think he ended up right at the top, maybe fifth. So I thought that was pretty decent for him. A good way to finish out the weekend, and a nice solid race result. Other than that, I think it's all been mentioned.
Beautiful. Good spotto, gents. And from our 30 spots, our 30 top 10 spots over the weekend, we had 23 Fords, 4 Chevs, and 3 Toyotas. So I've updated our yearly sort of tally with that. I've sort of let that go for a few pods. So we've had so far 171 top 10 finishes for Ford cars. We've had 55 for Chev and 54 for Toyota. So in loose percentages, that gives us 61% for Ford and basically 19.5 each for Chev and Toyota. So just something to keep track of across the year.
That's actually better than I thought, to be honest. So it's pretty
when majority of the teams are Ford, the percentage should be higher. Yeah. As in, it should be the highest percentage. But that's interesting with both Chev and Toyota sharing the same amount, which is interesting.
Yeah, Toyota had some strong numbers early doors and sort of... and Chev did too, I suppose. But Chev have sort of fallen away a little bit. I mean, they're nearly the same, but in a couple of the rounds, there's always different ways to look at stats, but looking then breaking it down into top fives or, that sort of thing, I think you would find, the vast majority
Forward.
would be, at a guess, it might push into the 80% would be the forwards. I mean, that's a bit of a guess, but the general feeling is that the forwards are filtering towards the top and featuring at that end a little bit more than what the Chevs and Toyotas. But that's just a hunch. Our ending of our Sprint Cup. So we know that Feeney is our winner. Matty Payne in second and Brodie in third for that. Not that that particularly counts or achieves them in getting anything. But for our race wins, Kostecki's on 7. Brock Feeney's elevated himself to 6. Matty Payne on 5. 2 apiece for Waters, Allen, ADP, and 1 a pop for Will Brown, Chazzy Mostert, Ryan Wood, and Andre Heimgartner. Our team's championship sees Penrite still sitting at the top of the pile by less than 100 points to Red Bull Ampol Racing. So that's going to get real tight come the bend and into Bathurst in the back end of the season. Tickford are in third. They're, what have we got, about 800 behind Red Bull, before we go to Walkinshaw TWG in fourth and Dick Johnson Racing in fifth. And we've covered off on the wins and the polls already. So that brings us up to our next event. Enduro season nearly here. We've got the AirTouch 500 at the bend just around the corner. And this portion of the pod and the greater part of the segment brought to you, our listeners, by Biti Motors Culcairn. We'll be back very soon to saddle Matty up and let him loose on the listeners. Alrighty, crew, time to hook into the Cobrapparel Snakes and Ladders segment. This segment powered by Cobrapparel. Matty, over to you, my friend.
Thank you very much. All right, so I had a really tough weekend. Just to get that out there. Just to get that out there, a DNF for Mostert and Payne in the third race, a couple of big donuts, really put a spanner in my works. But
no good.
But anywho, we will push on and announce the scores regardless. Myself finishing with 883 points for the weekend. Someone has to be last. Bails, 1,016 points, which was 267 clear of me. and then Marshy on 1,283. Another 133 points ahead. So
from the clouds.
Here goes Marshy.
Serious points there. And just to kind of see how that factors out over the championship, we now have Mr. Marsh, who has cracked 10,000 points. 10,379, leading out from Bails, leading out from me on 9,857, 500 points clear.
Wow.
500 points clear.
Anything can happen in Enduro season, though.
Anything could, but that is a decent lead. And then
Marshy torched the co-drivers last pod, so...
He did. Yeah.
And then Bales is 200 points back on 9,645. So Marshy has really got a fairly strong squirrel grip on the old championship there. So good on you, Marshy. Big round, and hopefully Bales and I can pull something out over the next couple of rounds to make it interesting. But that's it. Not real tight, but thanks to Cobrapparel for the sponsorship of the segment.
Absolutely, Matty. You bring the hat, I'll bring the rabbit, and we'll see what we can get sorted. A big thanks again to Cobrapparel for our Snakes and Ladders segment. We'll be back to all but wrap this one up with Marshy. Alrighty, Mr. Marsh, time for you to have a crack at the listeners. What have you got for us internationally, my friend?
I love these post pods because I only got one race that I have to worry about. I don't have 7 or 8 to have to catch up on, so it's all good. Although this weekend everybody was back racing, so
it was busy.
It was a little bit busy this morning. Trying to catch up on everything was nice and fun. But so we'll start off with NASCAR. SVG qualified 5th in New Hampshire. Was fantastic. So he's up the front, especially with qualifying pace, and then he led for 30 laps, which was again another step forward for him. However, some strategy and a slow pit stop sort of pushed him down a little bit, and he ended up in P20. I can see that he's getting a bit frustrated. The comments around SVG at the moment are imagine what he'd do at a good team. Obviously, he's sticking with Trackhouse at the moment because they're the ones who have given him his start, and he's more than happy. But it could be interesting to see what would happen if he was with a decent pit crew and all that sort of stuff that the higher end boys have got at the moment. But obviously, he heads to Daytona now, and he's sitting. He's on the bubble for the chase. So basically, our finals. I think he may have just got kicked out, but he's sitting very close on that line for that chase line, which is, coming up very, very close. If we head now, we'll head over to the Dutch Grand Prix as well. We had Oscar Piastri. He finished P6. He started in 4th and moved into the podium fight, which was all right. Again, another slow pit stop by McLaren, and he ended up going back to 6th, so he couldn't get his second stint going, and he's just very, very slow. Liam Lawson, on the other hand, though, new machine, or the upgraded machine, if you would like to call that, from the the Red Bull Visa car into the main game Red Bull. And he was the top finisher for Red Bull because of Maxi Verstappen decided to run it into a wall.
Whoops.
Yeah, so whoops-a-daisy for Maxi in his home Grand Prix too, so it was a bit shattering. Excuse the pun. But yeah, he finished P7, and he even finished P7 with a 10-second penalty heading over his head after a yellow flag infringement. And then we headed over to Washington, D.C. with the IndyCar racing, where Will Power, he's the standout at the moment. He's got 3 thirds in a row at the moment, so he's doing absolutely a mega job over there at the moment. Scotty Dixon worked his way up from P14 up to P7 with another strong top 10 performance. Marcus Armstrong was P17, but Scotty Mack, he would have to be the biggest story of that weekend for our 3 besides Will Power. He started P3, was right in the fight at the front, led for 3 laps. Late caution gave him a shot at the race leader, but he decided to try and move at turn 1, and it sent him into the wall. So he dropped him down to P22, and he actually didn't finish in the end. So what could have been for Scotty Mack is obviously not what it was. So yeah, and that's it for international.
Just like doing an epic job covering all these international series for the listeners out there, Marshy. But just want to go on to Will Power. He was struggling there for a bit, like changed teams after a long time at Penske, and like has turned it around deluxe in the last handful of races.
Yeah,
like
there was
looks. Sorry, Marshy.
No, you keep going. Sorry, mate.
No, just like he was struggling.
Yeah,
real bad.
There was almost a point I think that he was getting told he might be cut.
Yeah,
that was and now he's ripped out 3 back-to-back podiums, which is fantastic for him as well. So yeah, he's going great guns at the moment. Will Power.
Absolute superstar. Thanks, Marshy, for bringing us some international musings. And a big thanks to our episode sponsors Biti Motors, Culcairn, Cobrapparel, and Membrey's Auto Electrical. All the links to those wonderful supporters of ours are in the show notes. You're listening in on Podbean, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. You can check it out on YouTube as well. Search us on Facebook by searching the Round Bar channel. But for now, everybody, enjoy your racing. Cheerio.